Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Bankroll Burners Poker Podcast. I am Mike,
And I'm Josh.
and we're excited you're joining us here to listen to us talk about punting off some chips.
We just
So,
love punting off chips and we can't be stopped, and we just want to share that with you guys.
exactly right. Our insatiable lust for pain. So, this week, I have a couple online hands. I don't know if your hands are live cash.
Yeah, no, they're live. They're from the Encore Boston Harbor, which is a great room. Love the action there. Probably my favorite place to play, honestly. So looking forward to going back and getting more hands for you guys.
Nice. Yeah, I will say I played a session today for a 5-hour session, so not a particularly long session, but there was just not a single interesting hand. I mean, sometimes you just everything is very ABC, and you know what? That's okay. That's okay. That's poker. There's.
I mean, haven't we all had sessions, 5-hour sessions, where we have two different periods of folding for 2 hours straight?
Exactly.
So nothing wrong with that.
Pretty much it. It was like I fold the bad hands and I put money in with good hands. I was like classic ABC poker player today. But these hands are not from that live cash session. My hands today are, like I said, from the online room that Josh and I like to play in, which is definitely a bit of a, like we've said in the past, more of a home game type environment. Definitely not a grinders, 8 tables at once type of room.
Maybe you don't play 8 tables at once there.
That's fair. I've tried playing 2 tables at once, and it went okay. I don't know. My mental dedication is surprising. I surprisingly have to dedicate a lot of mental energy to each table. So maybe I'm not smart enough to play this game. I think that's very possible.
Well, why don't you hop into it, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. So this first hand is played. Like I said, in that online room, it's in a 25-cent, 50-cent game. And this hand is played with a gentleman by the screen name Attraction. Shout out to Attraction. One of my favorite people to play with in this room. He's a very fun player, good table banter, and always likes to get in the mix. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I've played with him before. Definitely have played together in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. He said he remembers you. So so this is a pretty good one. This is a 10-handed game, which is of course a super full ring, which is usually kind of lame because I know, right? You've always got players like who are AFK and just making the game take forever. But this was kind of okay. This was pretty much fine. And like I said, 25-cent, 50-cent. And this is sort of one of those welcome sights where you wake up under the gun with black aces. So that's what I had. I had ace.
And what's the stake? What's the stakes here?
Like I said, 25-cent, 50-cent, and we are $90 effective on this hand.
Awesome. I must have missed that.
Yeah. So all good. Well, we should repeat these things anyway.
Exactly.
So stay on the same page. So $90 effective, so close to 200 big blinds, not quite.
Sure.
10-handed, and I open to $1.50, standard open, 3x under the gun. And the low jack calls, who is not a player I have much history with at all. And then Attraction, the main villain, calls in the cutoff as well. So we are 3 ways to a flop. I mean, I don't really know that there's much to be said about this pre-flop unless you have anything to add.
No, it's one of these things where I have seen people kind of say, hey, if you're in an aggressive game, which these games sometimes are, you could build a limp 3-betting range from early position that sometimes includes aces and sometimes includes like middling strength hands, good bluff candidates. But I knowing you, I would guess that you're not really interested in doing that, and I think that's totally defensible as well.
Yeah, I mean, under the gun, especially in a 10-handed game, like I just don't have a limping range. I think
that's fair.
I'm gonna fold deuces through sixes, and I'm gonna open sevens plus, and then in terms of like people say you can sometimes limp with small pocket pairs, and I think that that's fine, but I don't think I'm doing that in a 10-handed game, in an aggressive 10-handed game under the gun. So I
Yeah, I think
pretty
it's
much,
very difficult to balance the range. I think it would have to be some sort of fractional thing. So I'm always happy to put money in the pot with aces.
yeah, exactly. So that's what we do here. We go to a flop. It's $5.25 in the pot, and the flop is kind of nice. It's ace of spades, or sorry, excuse me, eight of spades. Not, I have the ace of spades. So it's eight of spades, eight of hearts, nine of clubs. So 8, 8, 9 rainbow. Like I said, I have ace of clubs, ace of spades. So what are you doing on this flop here? Are you continuing on this flop? Are you check raising? Are you check calling?
Yeah,
What's your plan?
I love continuing here. I mean, a paired board, these are the sort of cards that could be bad for us, but I think when it's a paired board, it's like great to lead. A board like 9-8-7, 9-8-6, something like that. The flat callers are just going to have so many two pairs, straights, sets in their range, that we might not even have all of. But I think a paired board, there's just so many fewer combos of those. There's like we have the best two pair. That having an 8 is pretty unlikely, and then they would need like pocket 9. So I love betting here. I think we have the best hand a lot of the time, and just want to start moving forward. And I think we're doing that with pretty much all our range.
Yeah, on these paired boards, I really do like continuation betting a lot with a large volume of hands for a small size. There's some checking maybe, but for the most part, I do like to bet. And I go ahead and do that. I bet $1.75 into 525, so a third pot.
Great.
And the low jack calls. Like I said, low jack is not a player I have much history with.
Yep.
And then cut off actually then raises to $7. So not a huge raise, I would say pretty standard size raise, pretty average, not super small,
Yeah,
not super big, but
I think it's a little over a third pot. As if my quick math. Nope, not wrong. See, I didn't do the quick math. Big. It's a decent sized raise. Yeah.
It's like 4x close. It's close to 4x. No, it's sorry.
Yeah.
It's exactly 4x. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
4x raise, which makes sense. If you're thinking that on a board like this, like you might have some kind of thin value type raises. Maybe you're raising ace 9 or something. So I don't hate like using kind of a pretty standard raise size of 3x. I don't think going huge on a board like this with any kind of raise. What hand would you want to raise huge on this board? Draw or made hand. I'm not really sure. So
Right. And I mean, there are a number of thick value combos and pretty good bluffs. Something like Jack 10 with a backdoor. Pretty
sure.
good bluff candidate here. Obviously he can have like 9s or 9-8, but I agree with you that a lot of the time he might just be doing this with a 9, or something like that, or one of those bluffs.
Yeah, and of course he can have 9-9, but I guess my point was more like if I have 9-9 in his spot here, I'm not raising huge. Because
No, and especially in position. I mean, there's
Yeah.
almost he might even call like having the board so locked up.
Right. I mean, yeah. So there's a number of hands you can have here that are made. Quite a few draws, like you said. Jack 10, obviously 6-7 is out there. 7-10 suited if he's getting splashy. There's some even 2 overs with a backdoor maybe wants to make a play if you've got like ace jack suited or something. I think that there's plenty of bluffs that are possible here. What do you think I should do? What would you do in my spot here?
Well, I think you're so deep, with a one pair hand. I don't really like 3-betting, basically like a one pair hand that much. I think because you can obviously also have those same hands, pocket 9s. I don't know if you open 8-9 suited from under the gun. Possibly, I think
probably not 10-handed. Probably not 10-handed.
Right. So you can have, I mean, you can have a number of strong hands too. I mean, I guess it's pretty much pocket 9s and pocket 8s then. But I do think that you have better value to and high equity bluffs to like bet 3-bet with. I don't really like doing that when you're this deep. If you're shallow, I would say like fist pump shove all day. But you're not, and so I would probably lean towards calling, and I would assume that the low jack's going to be folding a lot, given that they just flatted.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. I did call, and I hear you. Like 3-betting here at this depth is probably a mistake. I mean, I actually don't think I don't know that I'm ever three betting here. Like if I have 9-9, do I really? I mean, maybe I want a three bet to keep the betting lead. That's the only thing I can like. But like, man, am I like? I guess if I have 9-9, I just be like, well, I can get value from an 8, so let's three bet or something like that. But
and like a small three bet probably or something.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't super love three betting here, and I just call. And indeed, the low jack folds.
Great.
So now we've got a $21 pot. And the turn is the 2 of spades.
Brick City.
Brick City. It does put a backdoor spade draw out there.
Yep.
So once again, the board is 8 of spades, 8 of hearts, 9 of clubs, and the turn is the 2 of spades. And I don't think there's anything for me to do here but check.
Yep, I agree. I mean, we want him to keep barreling. We can definitely get some information here. Like if he checks back, it's definitely possible that, he made one of those thin value raises, realizes he may be beat and slowing down. And I think I totally agree. Not a donking card, not a donking board. Let's just see what develops.
Exactly. And that's too, like he could, with a thin value raise, he could also have a worse overpair. Like tens is totally possible. Probably not jacks, but tens seems possible. So
yeah, under the gun, it's possible in a 10-handed game. I haven't looked at my ranges in a while, but it's quite possible that 10-10 isn't even a 3-bet against an under the gun open.
Right. I mean, I think it's probably a mix if I had to guess. But yeah. So I check and he checks back pretty quickly.
Great.
Well, so what are we thinking now? What are some of what do you think? Like, what is a different sort of cards that can come on the river, and what are we going to do depending on those cards?
So what I would think of when he checks back, right? I would say that we've eliminated some hands from his range. If he was bluffing, with a Jack 10, Queen Jack, Queen 10, etc., he probably did it with clubs or hearts. If he was doing it with a backdoor, I think if he picks up a backdoor, if he picks up the flush draw, that's probably like the barreling card he's looking for. And similarly, I think we can pretty much. I mean, we can definitely. I think we can 100% rule out like any value that's beating us.
Really?
I think
you don't think he's ever checking back 9-8, 9-9, just never.
I just don't think you can when you're this deep.
Sure.
Is what I think. I think with a hand like that, you just really want to play for stacks. You need to get like multiple streets of value. Like I would probably I've kind of been convinced that the slow playing is just not the way, especially when you're deep. You just need to get layer on the value as much as you can.
Okay.
But okay, sure, it's possible that he has something. If he has something 9-9 or 8-8, maybe he's just checking back and hoping that he can get in like a huge shove on the river or like a 4-bet or something. But
I mean,
I would expect he's doing this a lot with I would expect he's doing this a lot with a 9 or with one of those kind of low like open enders or gut shots that didn't pick up additional equity.
Okay. Fair enough. And so if the river let's say the river is a total brick. What do you think we should do?
Well, I would never think of this live probably, but with the benefit of actually talking about it, I think that if the river, we're like an offsuit 3 or something, I would actually be okay with donking out with the idea that he probably has one of these kind of, top, thin-ish value hands that may not call another bet, but might be interested in, that might not make another bet, but would be interested in calling.
Okay, so betting like a small. If it's a brick, we bet small to get called by worse. Are you saying that your sort of default play live would be to check river and hope he bluffs?
Yeah, probably check call because there's still a lot of those missed draws that wouldn't call a bet but might make a bet. So you might have to do some range analysis and see what the combos look like.
Okay. Yeah, I mean. Definitely, like, I think that if he has a 9, he's checking back the turn a lot.
Right.
So I think there definitely are hands we can get value from.
Well, also with that said, I think if you check the river on a brick and he has a 9, he's probably going to be betting it a lot. So that's just something else to consider.
True. If it's a brick river. This isn't a live low stakes player who's checking back everything. This is someone. This is an online game. Like they may bet top pair for value again, and then we can
unheard of.
You're right. So and then can we go for a check raise? I mean, it's like a check evaluate type of situation.
Right.
Maybe that's if we get a brick on the river, we check evaluate. Maybe that's better than just going straight for the thin value bet. I don't know.
Right. So I think those are both decent options on a brick.
Okay, but it isn't a brick.
Okay.
The river is the three of spades.
Okay.
So we complete the backdoor flush draw. Once again, the round is ace of spades, eight of hearts, nine of clubs, deuce of spades, three of spades. And notably, we have the ace of spades.
Right.
So we are blocking the nut flush. We're not blocking the nuts, of course, but we are blocking the nut flush.
And what I would say is, I kind of back to my turn analysis. I would think that if he was check raising the flop with a backdoor flush draw, combined with some sort of other equity, and he picked up the flush draw on the turn, I'd have to think that's the majority of his bluffs that are actually continuing the turn. So him not doing that would make me less inclined to think that he has one of those hands that just made a flush.
Interesting. And plus, we're blocking. So
plus, we're blocking it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you do here then? What do you think? I think it's a pretty tricky, not tricky necessarily, but interesting spot. Like, what is the correct play here on the river? It's not a brick. The backdoor flush is completed.
Right. It's almost annoying because, if we had one of those hands with a backdoor flush, it might be more difficult for us to get value out of like a 9 or a 1 pair holding. I guess I'm more inclined to bet to donk. Maybe I'm more inclined to donk here. I guess it's not a donk because
it's not a donk because
to lead. You're right. Yeah. I'm probably more inclined to lead actually for a fairly small sizing, given that it is a spade. Just because I think the top pair is somewhat less likely to go for value because there are some hands that you play the same way. If you have Jack 10 of spades, you might be doing you would have played this hand the exact same way. I think.
So we're gonna block basically, and of course as Bart Hansen often says, you should only block if you can get called by worse. But I think, as we've discussed, I can get called by worse here if I block bet. So,
right. And I think you can even go a little bigger than block sizing, honestly. I mean, because I don't think it's not like there are a ton of draws that got there. It's just the spade draw, which frankly, I don't think he should have a whole lot.
So you'd go it's the past $21. You'd go what, 2/3, 3/4, 1/3?
Yeah, maybe half to 2/3.
Okay, kind of a 2/3 size. All right. Well, my thought here was quite different in game, and I was thinking to myself, well, this is a great card for him to bluff at because something like a draw gets there, and it's so an obvious draw gets there. So I'm thinking, right. And I'm blocking the nut version of that draw. So perhaps I actually have a good check call candidate. That's kind of what I thought.
I think that's totally reasonable too, to be honest. I mean, I totally see that. The one caveat is sort of, having the ace of spades. I mean, he might have some number of hands that are kind of, I guess he probably doesn't have that many ace of spades offsuit something that he would be bluffing with. Just because he calls like you're under the gun open, so probably not doing a whole lot of calling with like ace 9 offsuit, ace 10 offsuit.
That's true. So there's not a lot of bluffs for him that contain one spade for him to have, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I was thinking more the other way, where because I was kind of thinking through where we have the ace of spades, which might be the ace. A lot of his bluffing hands might have the ace of spades, but I actually don't think that's the case because he's not really calling with ace of spades X. He might have like 7-7 with the 7 of spades or something and decide to put that into a bluff.
Well, anyway, what I do is I check in game, okay, and he bets 15.75, 3/4 pot. And I think that I don't think I can. I mean, first, I think all three options are perhaps on the table. Maybe maybe I can find a fold here once in a while, but I don't know. I think folding here is probably would probably be a mistake.
I think this is
the
actually
least attractive option.
I think this is pretty close to a pure call, honestly, because I think if we're raising, I just think we're not really getting called by worse. I don't know that he's taking the sizing with like just a 9 or something.
Right. And I was thinking raising as a bluff. as a bluff.
I see. No, I think I'm very happy to call here, just based on the composition of our hand and the way the action went. I think it's relatively unlikely he has a strong hand. I think we have the ace of spades, which blocks some of those flushes. He didn't, and just him checking back the turn, I feel really limits his hand strength.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess my thinking is like, well, if he has a small flush, I know he probably doesn't have a big flush,
Right.
because I have the ace of spades. If I rip it on him here, can I get him to fold a small flush? Right, versus
and
like, I
that's
don't really know that he's taking this sizing with like an 8, for example. I think that'd be pretty odd, given the run out. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I mean, also, I should be able to get him to fold an 8 too. But I guess I'm wondering, like, is he ever taking this sizing with worse value? Probably not. So, he is either bluffing or he has a made but not like nutted hand, a made but not nutted hand. So my question is, does my hand serve better as a bluff catcher or as a bluff itself?
I think we have plenty of showdown value. I do think, given the action, I mean, when it goes check on the turn and then we check again on the river, I mean, he might just go big with like a 9 and hope that we call him with like, I don't know, ace high with the ace of spades or something like that. Ace king with the ace of spades.
Fair enough. Well, anyway, I know we got to move along here, so I'll do the reveal. He shows me.
Right? Do we call?
We do call.
Okay.
And he shows me 6-9 of spades for flopped top pair and a backdoor flush draw, turned the flush draw, and then rivered the small flush.
And I was gonna say that, and I'm annoyed I didn't. But I was actually thinking, the one time I would, he might check back a flush draw is if it's 9x of spades, because he might, the showdown value. I know you and I have talked a lot about how to play those pair and flush draw type hands.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very important not to overvalue those hands. So, I love, first of all, the 6-9, mad respect to attraction. Love that hand. I always play that hand, 6-9 suited. And very well played, I think, by Villain. And he got me. So
yeah, I still don't mind the call. I think he's going to have plenty of hands that we beat there, and I think we're more than getting our money's worth when we make a call in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay, let's move along to your first hand here.
Perfect. So I'm playing 1-3 at the Encore Boston Harbor. Again, this is a pretty deep game. It's 1-3 with a $500 max buy-in. I'm currently sitting as the effective stack with about 325. And the villain in this hand is going to be sitting directly on my right. He is relatively aggressive, so he's this young Asian guy. He and his buddy sit down. They've got the maximum casino loyalty card. And I was asking them about it, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we play a ton of baccarat," and they kept getting up to go play baccarat during the poker session.
Love it.
So they're aggressive, they're splashy, they just want to be have some fun playing poker, which is wonderful stuff. So, in this particular hand, I'm in the big blind, and the action is going to go like this: the cutoff is going to limp for $3 as the first person in the pot. You know it's a great game when you see the cutoff limping.
Absolutely. Can you remind me, sorry, the effective stack here?
Yep, 325. So just over 100 big blinds. The small blind then is now going to raise. He's going to bump it up to 16, which is not an unreasonable sizing. I'd probably go bigger if I were in his position, but here we are. I am sitting in the big blind with 7-8 of spades. I think there's merit to a 3-bet here, but I also think there's merit to just calling. I don't think we're never going to get 4-bet. The cutoff may call, may fold. I'm pretty happy to kind of realize some equity, call and just take a look at, see how the flop develops.
Yeah, I think you can really mix in 3-bets and calls here. In position, I do not mind the call at all.
Exactly. I'm actually in position in the big blind, which is lovely.
Yeah,
against the aggressive guy. I'm not worried at all about the cutoff. He'll let me know if he has a hand that has me beat.
Yeah, so I like it. I like the. I mean, yeah, with the limper in there, maybe you're a little more incentivized to do some 3-betting, but I don't hate it at all. So
yep. So I call, and the cutoff does elect to come along as well.
Ah, well, all right. Unfortunate, but fair enough.
So the pot's now about 45 after the rake, and 3 of us are going to a flop. It's coming 3 of diamonds, 4 of diamonds, 7 of clubs. And we've got 8-7 of spades, so we flop ourselves top pair. We don't have a backdoor flush draw. We do have a backdoor straight draw, but it's, runner, gut shot sort of deal.
Sure. What was the suit of the 7? It's a club? on the board?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
got it. Yeah. 3 of
So
diamonds, 4 diamonds, 7 of clubs.
there's about 45 in the pot, and the small blind leads out for 35. So
Really?
he's continuing. He's continuing quite large on a board that really,
Wow.
doesn't necessarily favor him that much.
Okay.
Now, one thing I will say is, given that sort of given that sizing, I mean, on this board, I did consider raising, given that the board should be so much better for us, and I do have a piece of it. But I think that a lot of live players really, weight their large bet range to their stronger hands.
Yeah,
So,
I think that is. It's like they're strong. It's also they're like total garbage too, though.
yes, that's definitely true.
In which case, raising is not going to be good for you either. So he bets 35 into basically
45.
a $45 pot. Yeah, I mean that's big sizing. I mean, if he's got a strong hand here, though, if he had like 5-6, I actually really like this side. Like I think making it would be a huge mistake for him to just go bet 1/3 on this. I think that'd be leaving a lot of value on the table. I think with a strong made hand and a board that should connect with you and cutoff. Actually, it should connect with both of you. If he has a strong made hand, he should be piling money in. So I do.
Absolutely.
So I don't hate it at all, really. Even from it, like if he has a made hand here. So
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything for me to do other than call in this position with top pair. Obviously he has plenty of hands that have me beat, plenty of hands that have a lot of equity with 2 overcards and a flush draw or something like that. But I'm happy to call and see how the board develops at this point.
yeah, I mean it's worth noting that like you cannot really ever make a nutted hand on this board, like unless it runs out like 5-6,
Right.
And you have like you have them out pipped on a straight, but like it's worth noting that you are going to this is not going to be a comfortable hand for you pretty much no matter what, because your hand can never become strong.
Right.
But
So
yeah,
I call because I do have position. And I do expect the cutoff to fold a lot if he's got anything that missed. So I do make the call here, and the cutoff does fold as expected.
okay.
So
we're
there's about
looking at
115 in the pot now. I've got about 275 left in my stack.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So the turn is now going to come an offsuit 6, the 6 of spades.
Okay.
So here's where and then he checks it over to me.
Yeah.
So when he checks it here, I actually think this really removes a lot of those nutted hands that you were talking about from his range. I don't think he's got 5-6 because I think he's going to keep betting a 5 most of the time.
What if he has a set?
He could have a set. He definitely could have a set. I do think that a lot of live players will not be opening most of these pairs from even from the small blind. I mean, even when they should. I think most of them will be happy to over limp. But as I said, this guy's relatively aggressive. He definitely could have a set in this case sometimes.
No, but you bring up a good point. It's not common for someone to show up with 3-3 or 4-4 here. I mean, yeah, I guess a 5 is like, even if you're a 5-6, like you're probably a little sad now because you're now, no one should really have 5-8, but if somehow somebody has 5-8, you're losing. But
Right.
I mean, you could also think like you might check to trap. I don't know. It's sort of definitely a weird card, but I agree with you that I would definitely weight him less towards nut hands at this point. Like I'm thinking more he has something like, ace-7 maybe. Not, something like that.
Yeah.
Some kind of strong top pair.
So what would you do here in my situation? Would you lean towards betting or checking?
I'm not sure why we would bet, I guess, because are we going to get called by a worse hand? I don't really know what worse hands he could have, other than maybe a diamond to draw is the only thing I can think of.
Right.
So like if we're betting to get called specifically by a diamond draw, okay, but I also think like we might value own ourselves a lot here. I think he can have, I don't know, like a stronger 7, I guess. He can have 8-8. He could have 9-9. He might have all the. And he probably doesn't have aces. He probably continue with aces, but he could have a lot of overpair type hands. I kind of just want to get to showdown.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. What I was thinking, sort of as the hand was going on, I was thinking, I think that he's gonna have a lot of overpairs when he does this, when he makes this action, when he bets big on the flop and
Right.
then checks the turn on a board connecting card. So I actually think that I'm in a pretty good spot for a double barrel here. Because I should have so many more fives in my range that I can actually start. I mean, first of all, if I bet the turn, I may get some folds from diamond draws, which would,
you don't want, though. You want to call from a diamond draw.
That's true, and I'd love a call from a diamond draw too. And I guess I think that he'd probably call me with most hands at this point, right? He'd call me with overpairs. All he'll fold is his like disconnected crap that is not going to call any bet at any point.
Interesting. So I guess you're saying that you don't think you have showdown value at this point. You're saying like my top pair here, there with like a crappy kicker, there's no way I'm good, and I need like versus this action, there's no way I'm good. I mean, he's bet large and then he's checked. Maybe he's indicating he has some showdown value, and if he has any showdown value, it's better than yours. So
right, exactly. That's what I wouldn't say I'm never good. I would say if he has showdown value, it's better than mine.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
He either has showdown value or he's got some total, garbage. That's never.
I mean, there's some, if he has like, ace king with like, with the ace of diamonds or something,
Right. But that's like I'm not going to get another bet out of him at any point anyway. So I'd rather get him to. Frankly, I'd rather just get if he's not going to put in money anyway, let's not even see a river.
Yeah, I don't hate. I mean, you can bet. It's like kind of betting for protection in that way. I don't hate the decision that you're deciding that you need to take your hand and turn it to a bluff. I think it's close. I think there is a case to be made that you could just try to check this down. But I see I see your point. So okay, I'm on board. You want a double barrel here.
And now, believe it or not, I actually size correctly. Okay. And so now I'm kind of thinking about stack sizes. And so what I do is I bet 50 into the pot of 115, which is a bit under half pot. And that is sized so that if he calls, I'll have roughly a pot size bet left on the river.
I like it. Yeah, max pressure on the river. Are there any river cards you're going to shut down
on? That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't know if I should be shutting down on like diamonds or if I should be shoving anyway, because I can when he kind of stops betting, it's less likely that he has a diamond draw. So maybe I'm just supposed to really like jam on all like pretty much every card. Maybe like a board pairing card, especially if the opponent kind of knows what they're doing, like a card that totally changes the nuts could be a card that I shut down on.
Okay.
Because they might actually think through that and be like, no, that makes no sense.
Sure. Okay. All right. So you're pretty much committing yourself to a double barrel here. Yeah. I don't hate it at all. All right. So you bet 50, and what does he do?
And he calls. He takes a little while, but he does call. And so I'm thinking, wow, this is like a pretty okay situation. I can kind of reevaluate the river depending on what it is, but leaning towards, putting the rest of my stack in and trying to get him off a strong hand.
I mean, you're representing here on the turn, like either a diamond draw or 5-5 kind of like, I guess, because what other fives do you have really?
I could be representing, like 7-7 also. I feel like it's definitely possible that, we're not that deep. Like I'm, betting here is setting up a pot size shove. If I don't think he has that many fives, I think going with a high set is also getting value.
Yeah. Although I don't know. Well, yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Sure.
So, so the river is the 5 of hearts.
Huh.
So we actually make a very disguised straight here.
Okay, yeah, I was saying earlier you'll never make a strong hand on this board. Well, lo and behold. So.
Yeah, well, I was kind of chuckling to myself. So he goes ahead and checks here, and I actually kind of went into the tank for a while. I was really deciding what sizing to use here. Interested to hear what you would think about this.
Yeah, I mean.
So the board is a straight. Just to remind everyone, is now 3, 4, 7, 6, 5 in order. So there is a straight on the board. There's no flush possible, and we have 7, 8. So we've got 1 pip above the straight on board.
Yeah, I mean, God, he never has 9-8 here, right? Like just never. Like that's impossible. So you have the best hand, or you're chopping.
He could have 9-8 of diamonds.
Yeah, sure. He can have 9-8 of diamonds. You're right. So I mean, you basically have the best hand, or you're chopping. I don't like to go very big here because he might actually fold. You know, like that's the thing. Like he really might actually fold if you go very large. I've seen it. I've seen very similar situations in live games where people will, where if someone sort of has the cojones to use the large sizing, they will get folds from people who they'd be chopping with. So I like 75, maybe 100 tops, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good reasoning. I mean, I think that's really good reasoning. My thought process again, kind of in the moment, was really like, wow, like I am so rarely getting here with an 8 after this action. I may as well just like stick with the game plan and just stick it in, because like especially if he doesn't give me credit and he's like, you know, has a really strong hand and now he's just pissed that the board has run out, you know, super bad for him, and that now I like stick it in and like. It doesn't really make sense for me to have that many 8s here unless it's like a diamond draw.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I say, you know what? I'm just gonna I think that this is the way I get the max value is I just get him to like call me with some great hand that he's annoyed no longer has value.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
So I go ahead and stick it in, and I see your point that, and he did. It looked like he was strongly considering folding, although you never know, you know what they're actually thinking. But he went deep into the tank. And he did eventually slide in the call, and I show my hand, and we're good.
Very good. Well, max value for you. So well played, Joshua. You know, no.
Well, let's not go that far. But
well, you know, at least you got paid. So good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, always good to. This is one thing too. Like one thing I'm trying to get better about is when I have an opportunity to sit to the left of somebody who's who's spearing off chips, I really try to. And here's you talking about this aggressive guy who's going to his baccarat table. Being on his left sounds like a dream, a good way to make a bunch of money. So
it was great.
Yeah, definitely recommend for all you viewers out there, listeners out there, if you can move seats on a table to be to the left of a splashy, fun player, do it. Your win rate will increase.
Just do it.
So, okay, let's move along here. I've got a pretty interesting hand, I think, in terms of a situation that maybe isn't that uncommon and like how to best approach it. So
awesome.
Yeah, so this is once again online game, different day, different set of folks, and we are playing 25 cent, 50 cent. We're $98 effective. We are once again 10-handed, and I'm sitting once again in the under the gun position with a hand that is much worse than black aces. I have king of clubs, jack of clubs.
Okay.
Yes. Now, some of you in a 10-handed game might fold this hand under the gun.
Nits.
You're a nit, first of all. Second of all, you probably can fold this hand in a 10-handed game.
Yeah, it's totally fine.
But we don't fold it. We open it up to $1.50.
Actually, this probably is pretty much the bottom of our always open range, honestly. I mean, it's suited.
Yeah, if this was offsuit, I'm folding this without even thinking about it. You know, this is fold.
Absolutely.
But suited, you know, we open it up. And we get
150 again.
150 once more. Yep. There's no ante in this game.
Great.
So we open it up to 150, 3x, and the under the gun +3 player. So I guess that would be that is correct. The under the gun +3. So that's not the low jack, because then you have low jack, high jack, cutoff, and button behind that player in a 10-handed game.
Middle position.
Yeah, middle position player 3-bets me to 475. And so it's a little over 3x. It's basically a 3x 3-bet. And it folds all the way back around to me in under the gun. So what are you doing here, Josh?
Well, honestly, I mean, I think I'm probably mostly folding this hand. I mean, I guess we're very deep, and I don't mind calling a lot. But as I said, this is kind of near the bottom of our opening range from under the gun, and I do think that if it's near the bottom of our range, there's some hands that have to be in our folding range.
Yeah.
That we're not really opening that many offsuit. I guess I'd rather be folding, if you're opening ace jack offsuit, ace queen offsuit, probably rather be folding those, especially when we're sitting so deep. So I guess now I've talked myself into a call, given that it is, the suitedness of the hand definitely, plays a lot better when we're super deep.
Interesting. Okay. So my perspective on King Jack suited specifically. So by the way, like King 10 suited is a hand I also would open sometimes from this position, and that's definitely like more on the foldy side. But King Jack suited, I actually don't like calling with this hand in this configuration where I opened very early and I got 3-bet by the middle position. I think if I call with this hand, I'm going to be dominated a lot, like a lot. And I don't want to be dominated. And I'm also out of position, and I'm not going to have the betting lead. So
Okay.
I prefer to fold this hand mostly and 4-bet it sometimes.
Okay.
I don't know,
I
is
think
that
that's
reasonable?
fine. Yeah, I do. I think it's reasonable. I think, again, just because we're so deep, I do think calling is all right as well. Just, not all the time. I think mixing in, I honestly, wouldn't hate mixing in all three at some frequency. But I just think because like we're suited, we're so deep, we don't need to like lose all our money, if we flop a king or a jack
Yeah,
and the action goes crazy,
that's
So
true
as
too.
long as that's kind of the point that I would make. But I don't think I mean, I think four betting is fine. I assume that you four bet because I figured you didn't fold on the hand we're talking about.
Correct. I did 4-bet. I 4-betted. I 4-betted. I 4-bet up to 1150. So it's like, 2.5x roughly.
Okay.
Which I think in a live game is sort of maybe not something you would do, but in an online game is pretty typical to not use the full 3x sizing on a 4-bet. The theory being that 4-bets are already very polarizing, so you don't actually need to go very big with them. It's
Sure.
more efficient not to.
Yep. Makes
So
sense to me.
we do that 4-bet and we get a call from middle position. And the flop, so we're now basically $23 in the pot plus some change. And remember, we started 98 effective. So we've only got like I think we got like about 4x pot left.
Okay.
And 4-1 SPR. And the flop comes King of Hearts, Jack of Spades, 6 of Clubs. So we flop top 2 pair on a rainbow board that is somewhat connected.
Wow, that's a great situation for us.
Absolutely. It's pretty much the dream. And I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything to do here but continuation bet. The question is on sizing. Are you taking a large sizing, like a 2/3 to 3/4, or are you taking a range bet sizing, like a 1/3?
I think I'm just taking a range bet sizing. I mean, I think especially in, four bet pots, we just want to be making small continuation bets like almost all the time.
Right.
I think so. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Is I just want to pretty much always be making small bets, and this is a board that plays right into that. Obviously, he can have kings and jacks occasionally, but obviously there's only one combo left. So
Right. And you should never have sixes.
that's the hope.
Yeah, you should never have sixes. So we have probably close to the best hand possible, and he absolutely can have ace here. Like he is uncapped. This is a 4-bet pot. We're
Yeah.
fairly deep. People are not usually 5-betting aces. So I
Yep.
think that there's so much to get value from here. So yeah, I put it in for a 1/3. I bet 850, and we get a pretty quick call. So we are now what are we at with this pot size? We're about
$40. I
yeah,
think.
that's about right. About $40. And the turn is a card that completes the rainbow, and it's the 10 of diamonds. So we're now 6, Jack, King, 10, which obviously is a completely nut-changing card. Ace, Queen is now the nut.
Right.
What do you think? So this decision point to me is very interesting and something that you run into quite a bit, I would say, where you've got a very strong hand. There's not a ton of stack depth left. Like there's some, right? I mean, we definitely aren't like in shove or fold mode or something like that, but
Right.
there's like $60 left. I mean, we both have, we both have, what is it, putt and a half, something like that.
I think about 2x.
Yeah.
Pretty close to 2x.
Yeah. So Well, no, because the flop was 23. We both put it. We put in like another
But
7. Yeah, so we
there's
both have
40
pot and a
bucks.
half. It's about
No,
60.
wait, there's $40 in the pot, and we started with 98, so we have 78 left, and there's $40 in the pot.
Oh, okay.
Basically.
Yeah, that sounds. So I must have got the starting stack sizes wrong, because we
Okay,
went
well,
off.
if we have a pot and a half left, that's
Yeah, we have a
completely
pot and a half
reasonable.
left. That's what I have written down here. So I must have the stack size wrong, but we have a pot and a half left.
Well, I think it is a really interesting card. And I think this is a really tough decision. This is something where like I am kind of almost I'm like, wow, that's like a really hard decision.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that we have to keep betting. I'm not sure on the sizing. I don't know if if we can shove for value. I don't know if we're ever like getting called. Maybe we can go like another small bet and set up a reasonably sized shove on the river, just because I really do think we have to deny equity here. I mean, we can't just. I mean, there's so many cards we don't want to see.
Sure.
Not so many, but a lot of cards we don't want to see. We don't want to see any ace, any queen, any nine. Basically, like those would just be completely like soul crushing, action killing.
Yeah.
Awful cards. So I do think we like can't allow a free card, and especially when we're out of position, and it's. We don't really, we're out of position, which is just awful also.
Yeah, being out of position sucks. Don't recommend it. So, I mean, is there a method, like a merit to going into a check call shell here? I mean, like you said, we are letting a free card roll off if it goes check. So.
Right. I mean, if he has something like, I don't know, pocket, like I'm thinking, there's definitely a decent chance he has something like pocket queens here. And like checks back, and then like we're giving him a free card, we're way ahead, and if we're gonna check call, I think I'd rather just bet. I don't know, I don't really know what bluffs he has that don't have showdown value here, given that this is a 4-bet pot.
Yeah. I mean, that's sort of interesting. It's like if we bet, let's say, like what happens if he shoves? I mean, there's no other raise size but a shove, pretty much regardless of our bet sizing. So like, what are we supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I just like I like bet calling here. Like I don't know, like I mean, I think he could be, if we bet a second street, I do think he could turn something like pocket queens into a bluff. And I mean, obviously he has like ace queen suited, but I think he also has pocket queens that he would be shoving with as a bluff.
Sure.
So I kind of just want to bet call, and like we're just ahead. If he's shoving for value with aces, ace king, jack 10 suited, which I don't really know that he should have, but if he's doing something like that, yes, he can have sets, he can have straights, but I think our hand is just way too strong, and there aren't enough thick value combos.
Okay, I think that's really reasonable, and this is what happens. I bet $15 and he shoves, and I call.
Okay.
I feel exactly as you did that, man, like I think at these stack depth, we want to put stacks inside, and
right.
I want to put my stack in the middle, even like with a strong hand like I have, even though there are several nut hands that now beat me. There's now ace queen and pocket tens, but I just feel like it's so hard to fold in this spot, and it's so hard to play pot control from out of position. It's basically impossible.
I mean, I just like if we count some combos, right? He's got one combo of pocket kings, one combo of pocket jacks, and 4 combos of ace queen suited. And I would think that's it. I don't think he should be calling a flop bet with pocket tens.
Maybe.
Like that's like, I mean, in a 4-bet pot, I mean, what is he beating?
Yeah, true.
So based on that, right? He's got 6 value combos really, and he's got like all the queens, and that's a lot of combos. That's like 12 combos, I think.
Of queen. There's only 6.
There's 6. Okay, so equal number of bluff and of value and bluff combos. So
if we're assuming this player is good enough to turn queen into a bluff here, which I don't have history with this player, so I don't know.
Sure, that's fair.
I think a lot of people won't do that. But yeah, I mean, and I bet 15, and the shove is for $60 basically. So it's like I'm getting like 2 to 1 basically.
Right. So you have to call.
I'm getting better.
You have to call 6. You have to call 63 to win.
So win
70. So you're getting it's less than a pot size shove.
Yeah, well, I remember I put in 15, so I need to raise. I have to call another 50, really. So basically,
Right. Right.
yeah. So yep, I call, and he has ace queen off. So
Okay. Well,
we lose. You know,
and if he's calling with ace queen off, if we know that he's calling with ace queen off for betting, then I think that can change things. But I don't think he should be calling a four bet with ace queen offsuit.
probably not at these
Also,
stack depths anyway.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Like, and that's the thing too, is like a lot of times in these Broadway boards, like players that are V-pipping too much, they have a lot of Broadway hands, like offsuit Broadways they shouldn't have, which are really, and then they also, so like when you get to these Broadway heavy boards, you've got players who are V-pipping too much. They'll have a lot of two pair or like weird stuff they shouldn't really have, and they won't have a ton of bluffs. Like on the really Broadway heavy boards, like they often have a piece. So it's like
Yep.
they aren't bluffing as much as they probably should be. So I'm starting to get this feeling that like if you have a player who's a bit loose, which again I didn't know anything about this player, but most players in these online games are fairly loose. You might want to you might want to lean a little more towards folding on these Broadway heavy boards. I'm not saying I should have folded. My hand was really strong, but it was a tough spot.
No, that's a good point. That with no player info, it's really tough because I almost in these like online games, I almost lean towards the players being over aggressive, and willing, really playing. They're playing a little bit closer to optimal than like live. Obviously, we would default to being very passive and folding. If a live player made this play, you'd probably like chuckle and fold most of the time.
Yeah.
But I kind of lean towards the other players towards online players being a little bit more aggressive, and so that's why I'd probably lean towards call. I think they might also come up with like some weird bluffs.
Sure.
So
like 9-8 or something bizarre.
maybe they have queen jack or king queen suited or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a flush draw out there, I absolutely call here. It's just the fact that
Right.
this rainbow board didn't help. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Anyway, we got to move along here. So let's get to the last hand.
Cool. So you will chuckle a little bit at some parts of this hand.
Okay.
But so I'm playing here. It's the same game, exact same table. I'm sitting in the big blind for this one. The main villain is directly to my left. He's under the gun. The effective stack this time around is going to be 465, so just north of 150 big blinds.
Sure.
He is a pretty standard live reg. I've definitely seen him bet, and raise a little bit more than others, but I think overall he's still he's not going to do anything crazy like not crazy, but not going to do anything aggressive like turning a pair into a bluff.
Mm-hmm.
He's what I mean. He's a usual 1-3 player, but he's not like an OMC. He's not like the epitome of loose passive, but
sure.
So that's how he is. Just giving some background.
Okay.
So he's going to open, and this is a great start to a live hand. He's going to open raise from under the gun to 6.
Oh my God! Put it on your bingo cards, boys.
Yes, exactly. He'd done this a couple times before. I did not see what he had either of those times. The hand did not go to showdown. So I wasn't 100. I wasn't sure whether this was just indicative of a super strong hand, super weak hand, whatever.
Yeah, I tend to treat these min opens as more of a limp, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like I tend to respond to them the same way I would a limp. And
so
I don't know if that's good practice, but that's sort of how I think about it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think sometimes you get a bit punished because people decide to like raise really, really good hands, min raise because they want action. But obviously that's not really sound logic.
Yeah, absolutely. So okay,
so I'm gonna have to take a deep breath here because under the gun +1, the cutoff button and actually just the cutoff and button call. So
okay.
So 3 callers.
3 callers to the $6 bet. So we're looking at $24 plus the blind.
I'm in the big blind, and I've got ace of clubs, ace of hearts.
Awesome, very nice. So we're looking.
Yeah, at
you've got $25 of dead money in this pot.
Right.
Cool.
So I'm bumping it up, and I think I could have even gone bigger. I choose to go to 40 here.
40 with a standard open size of 15, right?
Yeah, but yes.
Okay.
I was approaching it more from looking at the bet of 6 and sizing it that way.
Interesting. Yeah, I hear you. So like 3x to 6 is 18 plus another 3 dead callers, right? So that would be 30
36
plus 1 because you're out of position to be 36 round 40. Yeah, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you could go bigger if you wanted to, like if you did, but I think 40 is fine.
Cool. Well, they all call.
Nice. Okay.
So
That's
bingo.
aces with 2 opponents is good. Aces with 3 opponents is not great.
So
aces with 4 opponents.
check that off your bingo card, folks.
Yeah. Oh my god. This is great. So what are you looking at? Like $200 in this pot?
Pretty much exactly. Yep.
Did any of them say, well, since he called?
Yes, the button did make the classic face of like, well, there's so much money in this pot. I guess I have to.
All right. For any of our viewers here who are not familiar with the concept of reverse implied odds, it is something you really need to know about. Just because you're getting great pot odds does not mean you should call. Because if there's a lot of players in the hand, if you make your hand, but someone could make a better hand, you're going to lose your stack. So don't make loose calls just because there's a bunch of money in the pot.
And the hands that are really, really get crushed by reverse implied odds are hands like ace-9 offsuit. Guess what? If there's an open, a 3-bet, and a call, your ace is not good.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So
offsuit aces and small, middling, fleshy cards. Yeah, because
8-9. 8-9 suited. Don't do it.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah.
8-9 suited gets crushed. Anyway, so there's 200 in the pot. I've got ace of clubs, ace of hearts, and the flop is going to come queen of clubs, jack of clubs, 3 of diamonds.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I actually think this is a really good board for me.
I agree.
Yes, someone can have queen jack, but like there's not that many 2 pairs. I have there's not that many like hands that have me beat, frankly. The queen and the jack also, like there being 2 high cards and then 1 really low card also take away a lot of set combinations.
Exactly. Nobody has queen or jack here. So, I mean, maybe, but probably not.
Right. Maybe the under the gun guy. It's possible, but I think he would probably just 4-bet given how many colors there were.
I mean, maybe, yeah.
Maybe,
But you have, so it's $200 in the pot, and what you have left in your stack is you have about 2 pot size bet left, right? A little more than that?
Yep.
Okay.
425 is now the effective stack.
Cool. Love it.
So I decided to bet pretty small here because I think, I think that, people either really connected with this or they really didn't. I think I'm happy to just kind of continue for relatively small sizing on a board like this.
Okay.
But I did think about going big also, but I just don't think that's. I think there are a lot of better nutted hands and super high and really high equity bluffs. Like ace king of clubs, pocket queens, queen jack suited, pocket jacks that I can polarize more with.
See, I really like. I think if you're going to ever bet big on this board, which by the way, there's an argument to be made that you're super multi-way and you should never be betting big. But if you're going to be betting big, I think aces and kings are better than queens, jacks, queen jack, because you are unblocking all of the things.
That's true.
And you do not have a spade, correct? Or sorry, a club.
I do have the ace of clubs.
You do have a club. Okay, that's unfortunate. But even so, I think you want to go, if you're going to go big, I think aces and kings are the hands you want to do it with, because you think about, you have a strong made hand, and this is a board that should connect with your opponents a lot. Those are the times when you want to size up. So I don't hate going 150, rip it on the turn as like a game plan here. I think you can go small too. Don't get me wrong, but I think this, if you're ever going to size up, I think this is the hand to do it with.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I probably still especially in a live environment where people are not folding as much as they should. I do like, in a 1-3 game playing your hand more than your range. Like if I've got pocket queens or jacks, I want to be taking the more aggressive route. Theoretically, I think you probably have a great point. But I like to go small here. I kind of think, this board isn't too scary. I think I can get calls from like a lot of worse. I think if people don't connect, they'll just fold regardless of the sizing. So I'm just going to go small and hope to get, 1 customer.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened. So the under the gun player, was the original opener, the older passive guy, he makes the call and everyone else folds.
What was your bet size?
I bet 50. So I bet real small. 50
yeah,
200.
Absolutely. So this is good. It's worth noting that this guy who has a bunch of people behind him and he's calling you should be pretty strong.
Yep. And I think that's fair. I was definitely thinking about, some of the hands that can have me beat. I mean, I do think he can also have like club draws. He can definitely have queens. He's like also the only guy who can have queens and jacks, which
Sure.
is
I didn't mean like he should have a pretty strong hand, like you should be concerned. I mean, he should have a pretty strong hand, and this is great because you still probably have a better hand. I mean, like,
right,
he's not folding ace queen or king queen, nor should he.
right, right.
So I think like targeting those sorts of hands is kind of what where my mind would maybe be at in this spot.
So the turn now comes the 10 of hearts. So it does not it doesn't complete the flush draw. It does not add a flush draw, but it is a nut changing card. It's not really a card that I want to see, to be honest. Sure. Like I do think this guy can have some ace king. I do think he can have pocket tens, although that would have been a very adventurous call on the flop.
Yep.
He could have 8-9 despite our warnings to the contrary. So
probably not. I mean, you are double blocking ace king, although there of course are 8 combos of ace king remaining in the deck, so there's plenty out there.
Yeah, and I also think that he could easily have called the flop with queen 10, jack 10. Those are all hands that he's opening and probably calling.
Okay.
I guess they might not. They might not be hands that you're supposed to open, but I do think that he certainly might.
Yeah, I mean, of the suited variety, you could pretty much open those hands from anywhere, but offsuit, of course, this absolutely should be folds from under the gun, but come on now. He opened to $6 in a 1-3 game, so.
So do you want to keep betting here?
Oh, yeah. I am shoveling money in this pot.
Okay, so I actually am thinking that this is cautious. I'm playing this quite cautiously because I'm blocking ace queen, which is a key hand that I want him to call me with. And I was kind of thinking a lot of his queens actually are like beating me. Like queen jack and queen 10 are both beating me. Sure. And there's now more combos of those two pairs than like king queen and ace queen because I have two aces. And I have the ace of clubs. So like the flush draws that he's opening under the gun, I'm also blocking a lot of those.
That's true too. I mean, hey, you make a good point. Maybe you do want to take this cautiously, but yeah, I mean, we've got $300 in this pot, and you have another you're like 370 behind, 375 or so. Yep. So, I mean, is there ever a universe? I mean, if you check and he bet, and then if you went check call on a brick river. I mean, are you folding to a river shove from this gentleman? If he goes check call and you check the river and he shoves, are you folding?
Well, I'm not sure. I think it depends on the river, but that's a good point, and maybe we'll talk about that.
If the river's a brick,
yeah. Well, so let's talk about that when the river comes.
All right, fine. So you decided to check call here. Is what
I decide to go in a check call mode. I think I'm always calling the turn, and I'm going to evaluate the river. When it comes.
Okay.
So
you've got a good hand for it. You are blocking the nuts. So
exactly, I'm blocking the nuts. I'm blocking the nut flush draw. If it is a club, I can kind of evaluate. So I check, and he bets 100, which is a third pot. But as people like to say, in low stakes games, it's often about the absolute size of the bet more than the pot. People aren't really calculating the pot, and they're really just looking at their stacks and sliding in stacks of chips and whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Fair. Yeah. So
but I do call.
That should be. You're right. That should be concerning. But yeah. So you call. It sounds like.
Yep, I call, and so there's now about $500 in the pot, and we got 275 behind.
Great. River.
River is a 5 of spades. It's a total brick.
Cool.
So now here's the question: what do you think? What should we do here? I assume that you want to check.
Yeah, of course. We can't lead out here now.
What do you think you're doing? What's going through your head? If he jams, obviously, if he checks back, I mean, I think we're pretty much good 100% of the time.
Yeah, this might be one of those spots where, if it goes check, you win. Absolutely. He's never checking back. I mean, I guess he could check back like a weird two pair, like maybe Jack 10. He could check back. I don't know, but I think it's pretty unlikely. I think if it goes check, you win. If he shoves here. God. If I have never seen him bluff, I'm folding. I think if he shoves and I've never seen him bluff, I'm folding. But you'd been at the table with him for a while, it sounds like, right?
Yeah, and I don't know that he'd ever showed a bluff, but I also don't think that I don't think it's one of those guys where I think he could bluff. I think, but I don't think that. I think his value hands are going to be more prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't have you just don't have. I mean, you are blocking the nut flush draw, which is his most likely bluff. And everything else is paired. Like almost every other hand he should have here is paired up. And it's unlikely he's turning a pair into a bluff, like you talked about in the beginning. So,
right. So I'll let you know that I do check and he does shove.
Okay. Yeah.
So and the other thing I was thinking is, what about another thing to consider is there anything he's shoving for value that I'm beating?
I'm thinking against. I mean, not in live low stakes poker. No.
Right. Do you think he's ever shoving kings here, or ace queen, or king queen? Do you think he's ever doing that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're leaning fold. Even we're getting a great price. The shove is about half pot, so we're getting a pretty good price.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. It's hard to I just against these types of players, like against a typical live low stakes player, they're just so rarely doing this stuff. I mean, again, I have seen a situation where people will quote unquote call one time on the flop with total nonsense, and then they will just run a 2-street bluff with basically air.
Right.
So that is something that I have seen certain live players do. I mean, God, I don't know. I'd live to see another day. If you've called, I don't think it's terrible, but because maybe this guy's capable, but.
Well, I'm glad I'm putting you in the blender here, because I was really deep in there. I was like, wow, this is a spot. And at the end of the day, I just couldn't think of a worse hand he was doing it with. I have the ace of clubs, so he can't even have a busted flush draw. So I make a quick. I tank for a while, and then before I can put chips in, I toss my cards away, and he can clearly see that I've made a big fold, and he basically says, hey, what'd you fold? So I show him the aces, and he flips over ace king offsuit.
Well, there you go.
So
good fold.
It all makes sense that he just. I mean, he called the flop with a gutter and 2 overs. So he in a 3-bet pot with 3 people behind, which is he made an adventurous call, absolutely slammed the turn, and I mean he was not happy. He was wow, he was shaking his head. He basically got up and left 10 minutes later. So
yeah.
I'd like to think that I had a part in that.
Good laid out. Good for you.
Thanks. So that's a rare example of me doing something, of me making a good fold.
Right, yeah, redeeming yourself from last week.
Exactly. I was just, I couldn't bear to come on here and say, anyway, I know I should fold, but I'm blocking the nuts.
Yeah, my aces are blocking aces.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I think you did it right. I just think these player types so rarely are bluffing, and you just kind of have to accept that.
Yep.
And adapt and make big folds. Well, all right, that just about wraps us up here. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys. We love doing this. It's always fun to talk about hands. You could probably hear us coming to different decisions as we talk and being like, wow, how badly did I play that?
Right. I mean, this is the thing. You hear our thought process and how we can't make up our minds. So, we're great people to have on your right at the poker table.
I highly recommend, seriously though, I highly recommend talk to people who like poker and who like to talk poker. It's great to talk about. It really helps me, helps us focus.
Absolutely. And hey, if you would disagree with anything we said, put it in the comments. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, all the good stuff. It really it gives us a feeling of validation, which I think is really more important than the YouTube algorithm, if we're being real. So please do that. And other than that, we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.